Live from WKYC Studios, this is What's Next with Russ Mitchell and Sia Nyorkor.
A break in the case. After a 12-year investigation, finally, some encouraging news for the family of Aliza Sherman.
The challenge of this case was just, it was overwhelming.
Sherman, a mother and grandmother, was killed in cold blood in downtown Cleveland.
It's hard to explain to my own kids where their grandmother is, when she would have been the absolute best grandmother.
Today, federal marshals arrested her alleged killer, her divorce attorney.
This guy has been living here with me for 8 years, and he has this deep, dark secret.
Tonight, new information on how investigators got to this point, details of the indictment and arrest, and we'll examine what could happen next. And good evening. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, we continue to follow that breaking news and arrest in the 2013 murder of Aliza Sherman.
Sherman's family fighting the last 12 years for justice for her. And today, they finally got it with an arrest that marked a surprise twist in a case that was left without answers for years.
That arrest, 51-year-old Gregory Moore, Sherman's divorce attorney, who was captured this afternoon by U.S. Marshals in Texas, where we are told he was staying with relatives. But here in Northeast Ohio today, there was a raid on Moore's home in Sagamore Hills. Our team coverage begins there with Annabelle Childers.
It's definitely been a shocking evening for the people who live here as they watch police and Ohio BCI units suddenly roll onto the scene. We know from court documents this is the home of Gregory Moore, and today it became a crime scene. Though U.S. Marshals arrested Gregory Moore in Texas, his home here in Ohio on McPherson Circle was also thrust into the spotlight. Friday afternoon, Sagamore Hills police helped Ohio BCI block the area off, and 2 BCI crime scene units set up shop in Moore's driveway. Investigators worked from a table in Moore's open garage, combing through the property. Wearing rubber gloves, teams took notes, labeled envelopes, and moved items into their vehicles. And as they investigated, the crowd grew. Many of the people watching from afar, people who live in the neighborhood.
It's a little bit weird to think that this guy has been living here with me for 8 years, and he has this deep, dark secret. I could imagine they're tearing it apart, drawer by drawer, couch cushion by couch cushion, looking for some kind of evidence.
We also talked with this man, who says he's a door-to-door salesman and talked with Moore this week.
I mean, yeah, because I knocked it yesterday.
I'll show you. Is this the guy you talked to?
That is definitely him. Yeah, I'm finding this out now. It's very unusual.
At around 8:20, BCI crews left the scene. And right after, a white SUV pulled into Moore's garage and closed the door. Now, we also talked with several neighbors who told us they didn't feel comfortable going on camera. Many of them said they never heard the name Aliza Sherman, but they said that they knew Gregory Moore as a kind and good neighbor. In Sagamore Hills, Annabelle Childers, 3 News.
Investigators say Gregory Moore has long been pegged as a possible suspect in Sherman's killing. He was her divorce attorney. Let's take a look back at the relationship and how we got here. On March 24, 2013, Aliza Sherman was set to meet with Moore about her divorce in his office in downtown Cleveland when she was stabbed 11 times in broad daylight near Erie View Plaza. A security camera captured this footage of a hooded figure running away from the scene. Aliza called for help but died later at the hospital. During the initial investigation, it was discovered that Moore sent text messages to Sherman's cell phone just prior to and directly following her murder, saying he was waiting for her in his office. Cleveland police never officially named any suspects in Aliza's murder, but both attorney Gregory Moore and Aliza's husband, Dr. Sanford Sherman, were questioned. When police questioned Moore, he apparently made false statements on his whereabouts to Cleveland police. Then the case went cold until 2016. That's when Moore was indicted on tampering with evidence and lying to police in connection with Sherman's murder. Ultimately, he took a plea deal admitting he lied to police. He served 6 months in jail and lost his license to practice law. As for Aliza's husband, Dr. Sherman, he was never charged, but in 2016, he settled a civil lawsuit brought by his and Aliza's daughter, Jennifer, alleging theft and identity fraud, during which the daughter cited evidence that her mother was in fear for her safety during her divorce case. Aliza and Dr. Sherman were still legally married at the time of her murder. Dr. Sanford Sherman died in 2024. Every year since Aliza's death, family and friends gathered to remember her and demand justice. After years of a cold trail, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation took over the case. Now Gregory Moore is facing 6 counts of murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 1 count each of aggravated murder and conspiracy. Here's what else we can tell you about Gregory Moore. He's a 51-year-old and is a former attorney. Now, according to the indictment, Moore had a history of calling in bomb threats to courthouses where he was scheduled to be in trial in order to delay proceedings.
Again, Moore was arrested this afternoon in Texas by U.S. Marshals. Earlier this evening, I spoke with Northern District of Ohio U.S. Marshal Pete Elliott. There's certainly more to come in this case, but if you can, what can you tell us about what led up to today?
Again, we were involved in an arrest on this individual at the request of the prosecutor. It was great work on their part. Hopefully this brings a little bit more closure for the family, the victim's family. He's in Williamson County Jail in Georgetown, Texas, and we anticipate him being extradited back here. I'm not going to talk on specifics of the case, but I really am going to talk, mention all the great work that all those agencies did together, the partnership that made this all happen and led to this arrest today and tracking him down to Texas.
And among the agencies Marshal Elliott credited for the arrest, the Office of Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Mike O'Malley, the Cleveland police detectives who worked on the case, as well as the BCI and the FBI. Police working the cold case say there was not enough evidence 13 years ago to consider Moore a strong suspect in Sherman's death.
Bryant McCrae joins us live after speaking with a former deputy chief with the Cleveland Police Department who was part of the original investigation. Bryant, tell us what you've learned.
Well, yeah, good evening, Sia and Russ. The attack happening in the very shadow of this building, all caught on camera, including the suspect. However, police say the video did not show enough of the suspect to lead to an arrest.
It's security camera video, which has haunted Cleveland for years. A person in dark clothes, their face and hands covered, running from a murder scene.
We couldn't tell you up until today if it was a male or a female, the race. We didn't know what it was. So the challenge of this case was just, it was overwhelming.
Ed Tomba, now the chief of police in Middleburg Heights, reflecting on his time with the Cleveland Police Department, leading the investigation into the murder of Aliza Sherman.
We looked at every angle, every assault that ever occurred downtown in that area to look for suspects.
A suspect, Tomba says, often pointed to Gregory Moore, Sherman's divorce attorney.
Here's a guy that knew date, time, location, where she would be.
Tomba says, still, the proof wasn't there.
I had my suspicions, my hunches, but I'm a police officer. I have to deal in evidence.
Every March,
for the justice that you so rightfully deserve.
Sherman's friends and family coming back to the site of her attack in search of answers.
What are their sentiments like today to know that this is kind of the first real step in finding out who murdered their mother?
Yeah, I think there's a sense of relief. I think there's a thankfulness, for it. I do think that they are very happy that the first step toward that justice is being served.
Now, Sia Moore is expected to be extradited to Ohio sometime in the next 2 weeks. He will be arraigned at the Cuyahoga County Justice Center. Back to you in the studio.
Bryant McCrae reporting. Thank you.
And stay with WKYC for the latest on this story. There's an in-depth breakdown on our website, WKYC.com, of the history of the investigation and what happened today as well. That is on air, online, and on the 3 News app.